So think about the last time you were just completely alone in a room.
Yeah, and the light is hitting the wall at an angle that does something very specific and electric to your chest.
Right.
Or maybe you just said a satisfying word out loud, like 3 times in a row, simply to feel the exact shape and vibration of it in your mouth, and suddenly your hands start moving on their own.
Oh, wow.
You might rock or bounce or flap because the feeling inside you is simply too massive to hold still. And for a few seconds, the heavy, demanding world goes entirely quiet, and there is only this feeling.
This is Quiet Power, the podcast from Hey ASD for late-diagnosed autistic adults. Season 2, The Inner Life. This is the season finale, Autistic Joy.
What we are talking about today is the baseline. We are talking about the concrete reality of your joy. And the most important thing to know right from the start is that you're never supposed to apologize for it.
If we start right there, inside that highly specific, quiet moment you just described, we're already talking about happiness in a profoundly different way. We aren't talking about, a general sense of contentment or a pleasant mood you might have on a Tuesday. We're talking about an undeniable physical reality.
Yeah, autistic joy is not an abstraction. It isn't a vague emotion floating somewhere in your mind. It lands in your nervous system with immediate, undeniable force.
Right.
It is a fizz behind your eyes. It is sparks traveling up your arms. It's a subtle flood of warmth in your chest that physically forces you to move.
Is that intense?
It really is. Because you process the world at full resolution, taking in sensory and emotional data at absolute maximum bandwidth, your joy hits exactly the same way. It is unmitigated.
I want to stop and look at that, though, because if you've spent your entire life being told that happiness is supposed to be a polite afternoon chat,
Yeah.
a mild, manageable thing, what happens when joy lands in your body like an electrical current? I mean, I imagine that level of intensity could actually be terrifying if you don't know what it is.
Oh, absolutely. It makes you feel like you are doing it wrong. It makes you feel like you're being, too much.
Too much, right?
For a lot of late-diagnosed adults, you were taught to expect that joy was supposed to be a mild, pleasant social experience. A nice afternoon, a polite smile at a dinner party.
Yes, very contained.
So when it arrives as this overpowering full-body electrical surge, you panic. You think, this is entirely out of proportion. I am reacting incorrectly to this situation.
But the intensity isn't a mistake in the wiring?
No, the intensity is the entire point of the wiring. If we look at the mechanics of how your brain handles data, you don't have the same filtering mechanisms that a neurotypical brain uses to dull the edges of the world.
Which is usually only talked about as a negative thing, right?
Exactly. That lack of a filter is often talked about purely in terms of distress, like the lights are too bright, the noise is too sharp. But it works in the other direction, too.
Right, of course.
When something is beautiful or logically satisfying or deeply fascinating, you aren't feeling it too much. You are feeling it at full strength, the way you feel everything.
And the data shows this isn't some rare, elusive experience. It's fundamentally common, isn't it?
It is entirely common. The research backs this up plainly without making a fuss about it. In a recent study by Wassel looking specifically at late-diagnosed adults, 94% agreed that they actively enjoy aspects of their neurotype.
Wow, 94%.
Yeah, that capacity for profound, embodied joy is baked right into the physiology. It's not a myth.
So if your nervous system is running at absolute maximum capacity, it makes sense that this joy isn't just a fleeting mood, it's a physical drive.
Yes.
So where does that drive naturally point you? Because if it's this electrical full-body experience, it can't just be random. It has to come from somewhere specific.
Right. It has a very concrete geography. It comes from highly reliable, specific sources. And once you can name those sources without shame, you can start mapping exactly where your joy lives.
Let's map the geography then. I
Sure.
really want to understand the actual mechanisms of where this comes from.
Okay, so the first major territory is monotropism, which is often called deep flow. It is that deep, saturated absorption of a special interest.
Wow.
To understand the mechanics of it, you have to realize that a neurotypical brain is designed to constantly scan the horizon, dividing its attention across a dozen different social and environmental cues.
Right. Always scanning.
But your brain doesn't do that. Your brain pulls all of its processing power into a single, intensely satisfying gravity well of focus.
So it's the experience of hours simply vanishing and the whole world narrowing down to one beautiful, fascinating thing.
Yes. It is the spreadsheet at 2 in the morning that finally behaved perfectly, where the data aligns, and you feel this immense, quiet thrill of logic falling into place.
I love that.
Or it is standing alone in a museum, and you realize you have tears in your eyes, not because the art itself is emotionally moving, but because the labels next to the exhibits are so perfectly, beautifully categorized.
Oh, wow, yes.
It is a profound, specific pleasure of order and depth. And for so long, you probably told yourself that was a weird reaction. You likely looked around to see if anyone noticed you crying over a categorization system.
I think the way society talks about this is actually deeply damaging. Treating a special interest like a hobby to manage is like telling someone they are only allowed to breathe in short, shallow gasps.
That's exactly it.
It's treated as a fixation that needs to be curbed so you can get back to real life. But it's not a distraction, is it? It's nervous system nourishment.
Nourishment is exactly the right word. When you are inside that monotropic tunnel, your nervous system is finally resting. It isn't fighting the chaos of the outside world anymore. It is perfectly aligned with the task in front of it.
That makes so much sense.
And that brings us to the second reliable source on this map, which is sensory pleasure. Think about the dial on your nervous system that turns up sensory overload. The exact same dial turns up sensory delight.
Wait, I want to make sure I understand the mechanism here. Are we talking about the same lack of filtering that we discussed earlier?
Yes.
Because we all know the reality of the fluorescent lit supermarket feeling like an absolute assault on the senses.
It is the exact same mechanism. Because you lack the filter that dampens sensory input, a fluorescent light feels like a physical blow. But that means the exquisite feeling of a specific texture against your skin, or the heavy, rhythmic sound of rain hitting a window pane,
Oh, that's the best.
or the exact right pressure of a sensory-considerate blanket, it feels like absolute magic. It's not just nice in the way a neurotypical person might enjoy a soft jumper. It physically settles your entire body.
Right.
It provides regulatory feedback that tells your brain you are safe.
And when it settles your body or when it deeply excites your body, that energy has to go somewhere, doesn't it? The electricity you described earlier can't just sit in the chest indefinitely.
It cannot. Which brings us to the movement. Happy stemming, flapping your hands, rocking back and forth, bouncing violently on your heels.
Yeah.
Or vocal stemming, like humming a specific frequency, or repeating that one satisfying word until it feels perfectly resolved in the air.
It's kinetic processing.
Exactly. Happy stems are simply joy with somewhere to go. Stimming is how the feeling moves through you instead of getting trapped in the body.
Right.
You are allowed to let it move. It is one of the most honest things a human body can do.
But this brings us to a really difficult reality because most of the people listening to this learned very early on that they were absolutely not allowed to let it move.
No, they were not. And this is the turn we have to make because we have to look honestly at the reality of your past.
Yeah.
For most of your life, your joy was described back to you as childish. It was called obsessive. It was treated by the people around you as embarrassing.
You were told to use your inside voice. You were told to calm down or asked why you were so obsessed with a particular topic. You were told to stop flapping your hands because people were staring.
You were systematically taught that your excitement made other people uncomfortable. And so you learned to have your joy privately with the door shut. Or worse, you learned to dilute it. You learn to flatten your reactions and swallow your stims to perform a contained, palatable version of yourself. You essentially put a heavy leash on your own nervous system.
But the crucial distinction here is that the problem was never the joy itself.
No. The barrier to your joy was never your neurotype. The barrier was the audience.
The audience?
It was the audience's discomfort, their lack of understanding, and their demand for you to perform normality. Your joy was never too much. It was just joy, and you were made to be quiet about it.
So how do you undo that? Because if you've spent 3 or 4 decades swallowing that energy, you can't just flip a switch and decide to be loud again.
You really can't flip a switch. It is a slow, painstaking process. As Daniel Burford, an autistic man diagnosed at 38, wrote in his book, The Unmasking Years, this is a slow reconstruction, one that happens entirely from the inside.
A slow reconstruction makes a lot of sense. You know, you are unlearning decades of being told that your natural biological setting is fundamentally embarrassing.
Yes, because masking and joy use the exact same muscle. To pass as neurotypical, you have to flatten your reactions to the world. You have to monitor your hands, your face, your tone of voice.
Constantly.
Over years, that suppression becomes completely automatic. You don't even realize you are holding the joy down anymore because holding things down has become your default state of being.
I have to push back here, though, because talking about a slow reconstruction from the inside sounds beautiful, but I worry about the risk of toxic positivity.
Oh, go on.
If the reality for so many late diagnosed adults is that a normal day is just sheer survival, if they are navigating a world that was simply not built for their nervous system, how do they stop holding it down?
Right.
If my normal day is just surviving the sensory assault of an office, mapping my joy sounds like putting a tiny plaster on a massive gaping wound.
I agree completely, and I'm going to be very blunt about this. If your life right now is pure overwhelm and fatigue, you are not doing it wrong. You cannot force joy on top of an empty tank.
This joy isn't compensation for how hard the world is. It doesn't make the burnout worth it.
Exactly. Autistic joy is not a reward for your suffering. If your internal resources are depleted beyond measure, the work right now is not to magically add joy to your day.
No.
You cannot positive think your way out of a depleted nervous system. The work is to take weight off so that there is room for the joy to eventually return on its own.
Let's get really practical about taking the weight off, because you still have to exist in the world. You can't just opt out of reality.
You start by fixing the physical baseline first. Unmet basic needs often disguise themselves as profound despair.
Like what?
Are you hungry? Are you dehydrated? Are you physically too hot in the clothes you're wearing? Fix the concrete physical baseline first and see what is left.
Right. Clear the easy hurdles first.
Naming the drain plainly shrinks it. Saying, I am not deeply sad, I am just overpeopled and underrested, removes the moral failing from the exhaustion.
That grounds it in reality, and once that baseline is even a fraction steadier...
Then you start keeping a joy map. You track the glimmers, and you have to be highly, rigorously specific.
So not just a vague, I like listening to music.
No. It has to be the bass drop at the 2-minute mark in that one specific song played through my heavy noise-canceling headphones.
I see.
Or the exact 10 minutes of solitude in the kitchen before anyone else in the house wakes up, when the light is gray and the hum of the fridge is the only sound. You map exactly where the joy already naturally lands in your day.
And then you fiercely protect those coordinates.
You guard them with everything you have. You give yourself permission to stim in one safe space where nobody is watching. You let your hands and your voice do exactly what they want to do without auditing them.
And when you start mapping these things and guarding these spaces, things really begin to shift. The mask starts falling away entirely, and you step into this beautiful, completely unmasked existence where every single day is just vibrating with this newly reclaimed...
Wait, let's bring this right back down to the dirt.
Right. Okay, sorry.
Because we aren't talking about a magical happily ever after here.
You're right. I was letting it run away. Because the truth is, you still have to pay your taxes. You still have to go to the supermarket and deal with the fluorescent lights and the noise. The world doesn't suddenly become an easy place to live.
Exactly. Thank you. It is entirely about the dirt. We are not talking about a cinematic crescendo where you are suddenly free of all difficulty.
Yeah.
We're just talking about protecting a 10-minute window in your parked car before you walk into work. We are talking about wearing the jumper with the exact right weight and texture, even if it's the 5th day in a row.
Just giving yourself that comfort.
Yes. We're talking about surviving the grocery shop and then coming home and listening to the exact same song 80 times in a row because it is not finished regulating your nervous system yet.
It's incredibly small. It's incredibly concrete.
It is a quiet, deliberate making of space. It is lowering the overwhelming volume of the world just enough that the joy that is already yours can finally reach you.
And part of making that space, a huge part of it, is looking at the people you share it with. Because we talked earlier about the audience being the primary barrier.
Yes. You have spent years, perhaps decades, adapting your behavior to accommodate everyone else's comfort. It is entirely fair to ask for a little bit back.
Right.
You are allowed to tell the people close to you that when you are excited, you want them to share that energy rather than dampen it or ask you to tone it down.
Which means a safe relationship isn't necessarily a grand, sweeping romance. It's the highly specific relief of a person who lets you be strange without commenting on it.
It is sharing a massive, detailed info dump about your special interest with someone who actually wants to hear it, who doesn't check their watch.
That's the dream.
It is someone who knows that telling you you're so intense lands as a harsh criticism, and so they never say it. They just let you be loud. They let you take up the space you were always meant to take up.
So as we close this out, what is the final thought for the listener right now, sitting in their room, or parked in their car, or riding on their commute?
I want you to think about the quiet rebellion of building a sensory-considerate corner in your home. Just one space where the lighting is exactly the way you need it to be, where the textures are right, where the sound is dampened, and you don't have to explain why it's like that to anyone. It's simply yours.
The full article is at heyasd.com in the autism blog.